Former President Donald Trump is at it again, y'all. This is one of his go-to lines that he's been using for a while now, so this is in Mediaite. Trump declares he is the only 2024 candidate who can prevent World War III. He alone can fix it. That's former President Donald Trump's position on the Russia-Ukraine war, and evidently on world diplomacy at large. In a Sunday morning post to Truth Social, the former president declared himself the only candidate in the 2024 presidential race who can stop various nations across the world from careening into global conflict. Quote, President Joe Biden continues to bring the world ever closer to nuclear war, Trump wrote. I alone am the candidate who can prevent World War III. I will end the killing and bloodshed and bring peace to Europe and the world. Along with the post, Trump tweeted a screenshot of a New York Times article which detailed Biden's decision to allow Ukrainian pilots to be trained on U.S. F-16 fighter jets, paving the way for other countries to supply Ukraine with the jets. In a reversal from the president's previous stance, Biden had previously held off on that move out of concern that the jets could be used to hit Russian targets and escalate the conflict. Trump has repeatedly claimed he could solve the Russia-Ukraine conflict in 24 hours. At the CNN town hall on May 10th, Trump repeatedly declined to say that he wants Ukraine to prevail. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm against the Biden policy, man. I am. There's a reason why Biden initially said, no, we're not going to give you fighter jets. Of course not. Why? Because the concern is, what if they start bombing inside Russia, deep inside Russia, then Russia retaliates and escalates and raises the stakes? Look, you're off to the races and you are rolling the dice with nuclear war. I don't care if Trump says it. I don't care if Carrot Top says it. It's true, right? So you got to give credit where it's due. That's factually accurate. So I'm totally against this Biden policy. Having said that, Donald Trump also regularly brags about how much he armed Ukraine. Don't you remember that? He had this line he would go back to in his rallies where he'd say something along the lines of, President Obama gave them blankets, gave them pillows, I gave them weapons. So wait, which is it? Are you for arming them or are you against arming them? Look, he's just a reactionary, right? So whatever Biden says, he's going to reflexively take the opposite position. It's happened on a number of issues. Like, Trump used to talk about we're going to get out of Afghanistan. He'd say it all the time. Then Biden actually does it. And he's like, can you believe we got out of Afghanistan? That was your position. That was your position. You said you were in favor of it. He actually did it. He had the balls to do it, get the boots on the ground out of there. And now you flip on him. He has no coherent philosophy, no ideology, no, approach to foreign policy. There is no Trump doctrine. That's not a thing. He's just reacting, shooting from the hip and reacting. So he sees something, Biden's going to give fighter jets to Ukraine. I'm against that. Good, I agree. But you bragged about how much you armed Ukraine back when you were in power. Remember, guys, there's this myth around Trump. Oh, he's dovish. He's not an interventionist. He didn't get us in any wars. That is a absolute nonsense take. By the way, remember Trump was being Russiagated really hard, where Democrats were arguing, hey, he's, Vladimir Putin's puppet, and there's P-tapes with him and Russian hookers. They have dirt on him, so he's just doing Putin's bidding. And Trump, in reaction to that, because he wanted to prove those people wrong, he was hawkish with Russia. He was doing the NATO buildup on Russia's border. He was axing the pipeline that was the new pipeline that they were going to open up in a deal with ExxonMobil. So he repeatedly acted in a standoffish and aggressive posture to Russia. And look, you could argue he probably did that because he was getting a lot of political pressure that he was, a Russian sycophant. So he's like, no, I'll show you how much I'm not. I'm really strong. I'm really tough. I'm really powerful. Escalate. And so even on this specific issue, the idea he's a dove is not accurate. I'd be much more concerned with him in office with his finger on the button than Joe Biden or anybody else. That's not saying Joe Biden's doing a good job, because clearly it's mission creep, right? And he's slowly getting more and more aggressive. But I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable with Trump in there. Not at all. Not at all. And remember, guys, if you just look at the record, it debunks this notion of him as some sort of peace president. They tried to do a coup in Venezuela. They literally had Juan Guaido, who wasn't elected as president. They were like, actually, that's your president now. Maduro? Who's Maduro? I don't even know who Maduro is. There is no Maduro as far as I'm concerned. This guy's the president now. That's what they did. Trump cracked down again on Cuba. Something Obama was actually good on, and he started normalizing relations with Cuba. Trump said, let's flip that. Iran. Trump got in there and ripped up the Iranian nuclear agreement, an agreement that was working and was verified over a dozen times by the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Trump said, no, let's go ahead and rip that up. And then, by the way, they act shocked when it's like, oh, Iran is now moving closer to a nuke. Oh! Well, how could that happen? I don't know. Maybe because you ripped up the agreement that was working? We would lift sanctions on them, and they would let us in there to regulate and make sure that they're not building nuclear weapons to any sort of, capacity where it can do harm. They can have nuclear power for their power grid like everybody else, but they can't make a weapon. The list goes on and on. He kept us in Iraq. He kept us in Afghanistan. He increased the drone program by over 400%. This is not a peace guy. This is not a peace candidate, not by any stretch of the imagination. Even the one area on foreign policy where I give him credit, it started out in a worse way. Remember, he was doing a dick measuring contest on social media with Kim Jong-un to, my weapons are way bigger than your weapons and mine actually work. Threatening war with Kim Jong-un on Twitter on a casual Tuesday morning or whatever it was. And eventually they had some dialogue. Good, that was great. But you could have skipped the whole part where you're threatening World War III too. Could have done that. But he didn't. Oh, man. He also bombed Syria. As we talked about time and time again. I mean, the list goes on and on. Oh. But it really is, look, from an optics perspective, this might be one of the many reasons why Trump is now leading Biden by 7. Because at least he's out there. This is more normie stuff from him in terms of the message, the rhetoric. I'm against World War III. You're kind of flirting with World War III here. That might land with people because they're worried about paying their bills. They don't want to have to worry about a Russian missile coming to blow us all up because of a geopolitical issue that they can't even point out where Ukraine is on a map. So, anyway. There we go. We live in hell world, and that is obvious. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.